Hello again. I'm Miss Jody from the Literacy Volunteers. And last time I talked to you about Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh. And I told you, Christopher Robin was a real boy, and his dad, A.A. Milne, wrote books about him and of course about Winnie the Pooh. This is Winnie the Pooh right here. And we had the story last night about Winnie the Pooh who went up in the balloon to try to find the bees. Well, we have Winnie the Pooh just always has an adventure. So this one is called Pooh Goes Visiting. Edward Bear, known to some of us as Winnie the Pooh, or Pooh for short, was walking through the forest one day, humming proudly to himself. He had made up a little hum that very morning as he was doing his stoutness exercises. I guess he thought he was a little fat. So he's making his stoutness, and he made a song in front of the beds. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la. He stretched up high as he could go, and then tra-la-la, oh help, as he tried to reach his toes. After breakfast, he said it over and over to himself until he had learned it by heart. And now he was humming it right through the properly. It went tra-la-la, tra-la-la, rum-tum-tiddle-um, tra-la-la, tra-la-la. Well, he was humming this hum to himself and walking gaily along, wondering what everybody else was doing and what it felt like being somebody else. When suddenly he came to a sandy bank, and in the bank was a very large hole. Ah, said Pooh, I know if I know anything about anything, that hole means rabbit. He said, and rabbit means company, because he was all by himself. And he said, and company means food, and listening to me humming, and just like this, rum-tum-tiddle-um. So he bent down, put his head into the hole, and called out, is anybody home? Cried out Pooh very loudly. No, said a voice. You needn't be so loud. I heard you very well the first time. Bother, said Pooh. Isn't there anybody there at all? Nobody. Winnie the Pooh took his head out of the hole and thought for a little, and then he thought to himself, there must be somebody there because somebody said nobody. So he put his head back in the hole and said, hello, Rabbit. Is that you? No, said Rabbit in a different kind of voice this time. But isn't that Rabbit's voice? I don't think so, said Rabbit. It isn't meant to be. Oh, said Pooh. He took his head out of the hole, had another think. Then he put it back and he said, well, could you very kindly tell me where Rabbit is? But this is me, said Bear. He had gone to his friend Pooh Bear. But this is me, said Bear very much. What sort of me? Pooh Bear. Are you sure, said Rabbit? And still more surprised. Quite sure, said Pooh. Well then, come on in. So Pooh pushed and pushed. Now he's a round bear. So he went through the hole, he pushed, and boop, he went into the hole in Rabbit's house. You're quite right, said Rabbit, looking him over again. It is you, and I'm glad to see you. Well, I wasn't sure, how it was in the forest. You can't see anybody coming into anybody's house. It has to be very careful. Well, we know that. You have to be very careful if somebody comes knocking on your door. But Pooh and Bear and the rabbit knew each other very well. Pooh always liked a little something at 11 o'clock, so he was very glad to see Rabbit was getting his plates and mugs out. When Rabbit said, would you like honey or condensed milk with your bread? Both, said Pooh. He didn't want to sound greedy. But don't bother about the bread, please. He just wanted some honey. For a long time he said nothing until at last, humming to himself in a rather sticky voice, he got up, shook Rabbit lovingly by the paw, and said he must be going on. Must you? Said Rabbit politely. Well, said Pooh, I could stay a little longer if you... And then he looked at the food, and of course he had some more food. I'll be going. Goodbye. Is there any more? Said Pooh. Rabbit took the covers off the dishes. No, there wasn't any more. I thought not, said Pooh, nodding to himself. Well, goodbye, I must be going on. So he started to climb out of the hole. Now, Pooh was in the hole. He started to climb out of the hole. And he put his front paws out. Now figure, this is the hole. put his front paws out, and he got stuck. And he couldn't go out, he couldn't go back in, and the rabbit said pushed, and he was stuck. So Rabbit went out the back door, and he went over to find Christopher Robin. And they said, we have to get, because Pooh is stuck in the door of my house. So Christopher Robin came, and he sat right outside the door, and he said, I'm going to tell you a story, because obviously Pooh, who had been eating much too much, got stuck because he was too fat. Okay, so they started to climb out of the hole, and then his front paws and shoulder, and then that's where he was stuck. So, oh bother, said Pooh, I'll have to go on. Help! I better go back. Well, he couldn't go back either. He was stuck. By now, Rabbit had wanted to go for a walk, so he went out the other door. Pooh Bear stretched out a paw. Rabbit pulled and pulled. You're hurting me. The rabbit tried to pull. If it comes, said Pooh, of not having bores big enough. It all comes, Rabbit said, certainly, of eating too much. I thought at the time, said Rabbit, only I didn't like to say anything, that one of us was eating much too much. And I knew it wasn't me, said the rabbit, so he went and got Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin came to the front door, and since they couldn't pull him out, they couldn't push him in, Rabbit scratched his whiskers and said, once Pooh will have to stay there until he uses up all the food. And here he is, stuck in the hole. You mean I'll never get out, said Pooh. I mean, Rabbit, we've got so far, it's a pity to waste the food. Well, there's only one thing to be done. We shall have to wait for you to get thin. How long does getting thin take? Asked Pooh anxiously. About a week, I should think. I can't stay here for a week. You have to stay here, you silly old bear, because it's getting out, which is difficult. So I'll read to you. And I hope it won't snow, he said. And I said, old fellow, you're making up a good deal of room in my house. Do you mind if I use your back legs as a towel horse? Now you've got to figure that here's Pooh in the hole. And Rabbit uses a towel and uses him for a towel rack. That's got to be very embarrassing for Pooh. But that's what Pooh got himself stuck because he ate too much. So, well, it won't snow, and I mean, you're not doing anything, so we'll just leave your towels there. A week, Pooh said glumly. What about meals? Well, I'm afraid no meals, said Christopher Robin, because getting thin quicker, but we will read to you. So Bill Bear began to sigh, and then he found he couldn't, so he was stuck. And a tear rolled down his eye. He'd read a sustaining book, Comfort a Wedged Bear in Great Tightness. So for a week, Christopher Robin read that sort of book. So here's Christopher Robin, and he's reading to this bear who's stuck. Let's not forget his towel. Okay. So Christopher Robin read he read a sort of book at the north end of Pooh. And at the south end of Pooh, he was a towel rack. In between, Bear felt himself getting slenderer and slenderer. And at the end of the week, Christopher Robin said, now. So he took hold of Pooh's front paws. So we got to hear his Pooh. And here's Christopher Robin pulling him from the front. And all of Rabbit's friends and the relations and the Tigger and the pig, everybody was pulling at the other end for a long time. Pooh only said, ow, ow. And all of a sudden, pop. And all of a sudden, like a cork coming out of a bottle, Christopher Robin and Rabbit and all of Rabbit's friends and the relations went head over heels backwards. And on top of them came Winnie the Pooh, free. So with a nod of thanks to his friends, he went on for his walk through the forest, humming proudly to himself. But Christopher Robin looked after him lovingly and said, silly old bear. So that's the end of this story, because there are so many. Pooh got himself in a lot of pickles, but this is one where he got himself stuck because he ate too much. I hope you enjoyed our story. Leave us a message to say that you want to hear more about Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin, and we will find some more books for you. Thank you for coming to Literacy Volunteers video about reading.